The $2.1 trillion household spending industry depends on you never learning what I am about to show you. Every year, the average American family spends $73,000 keeping a household running, with $6,200 of that going to food, utilities, and home maintenance costs they consider fixed and unavoidable. But 350,000 Amish families across 32 states have been running complete households on a fraction of that figure for over 200 years, solving every one of those costs before the bill arrives. They have never considered those expenses fixed. Not one of them has. Number 25, draft animal field cultivation. Most small farms treat the tractor fuel bill as a fixed operating cost with no alternative. A Lancaster County, Pennsylvania Amish operation documented by the Rodale Institute in 2003 ran a 40-acre diversified vegetable and grain farm using 2 Belgian draft horses, with total annual draft power costs estimated at $1,200 against a comparable tractor operation running $4,800 in fuel, maintenance, and depreciation. The horses produced their own replacements, fertilized the fields they worked, and required no parts from a dealer 3 counties away. $3,600 per year separated the 2 operations on the same size land. The deep tillage method those horses pulled produces root crop yields that tractor cultivation cannot match on identical soil. Number 24, broad fork double digging for root crop beds. Gene Logsdon spent time measuring Amish market farms in Holmes County, Ohio in 1994 and documented his findings in The Contrary Farmer. The broad-forked root crop beds he measured produced carrot and parsnip yields 40% higher than shallowly cultivated beds on the same soil type, and those beds required no re-preparation for 3 to 5 seasons after the initial deep tillage. Most growers till the top 6 inches and wonder why their carrots fork. Broad forking fractures the subsoil at 18 to 24 inches without inverting it. Opening channels, the root follows straight down. A 40% yield increase from a $60 tool used once every 3 to 5 years is a ratio worth paying attention to. The Windbreak system the Amish plant around those beds adds growing days to the season without adding a structure. Number 23, strategic windbreak placement for field microclimate management. A University of Nebraska windbreak study published in Lincoln, Nebraska in 2001 documented Amish-style windbreak configurations in Iowa achieving measurable frost delay of 4 to 7 days at field edges compared to open fields in the same county. Most growers accept their frost dates as fixed facts printed on a seed packet. Amish farmers plant dense tree rows on the north and west sides of market fields, raising air temperatures inside the windbreak boundary by 3 to 5 degrees Fahrenheit during frost-risk nights and reducing wind-driven soil moisture loss by an estimated 20 to 30% across the growing season. 4 to 7 additional frost-free days on a market garden calendar represents 2 to 3 additional harvest weeks at the shoulders of the season. The succession planning schedule the Amish run inside the protected field ensures none of those extra days go unused. Number 22, succession planting schedules for continuous market harvest. An Amish market grower in Holmes County, Ohio, documented by Ohio State University Extension in 2001, maintained uninterrupted weekly harvests of 8 vegetable crops across a 26-week market season by staggering plantings every 10 to 14 days rather than planting entire beds at once. Most market gardeners plant in batches, manage the resulting glut by discounting, and scramble through the gaps by purchasing from other farms. The Holmes County grower sold at full price every week across 26 consecutive markets, generating an estimated $3,400 more per season than comparable growers managing the same acreage in single batches. Same ground, same crops, different calendar. The live mulch system running between those succession beds manages weeds and feeds the soil without a separate pass for either job. Number 21, live mulch systems between crop rows. Rodale Institute field researchers published trial results in Kutztown, Pennsylvania in 2008, documenting live white clover mulch between tomato rows, reducing weed biomass by 73%, and contributing an estimated 40 pounds of nitrogen per acre annually compared to bare cultivated soil in adjacent plots. Most growers cultivate between rows repeatedly across the season to manage weeds, each pass costing labor and compacting the path. Amish gardeners seed low-growing clover between rows once and let it suppress weeds and fix nitrogen continuously without further attention. 73% weed reduction and 40 pounds of free nitrogen from one seeding decision. The deep-rooted perennials the Amish establish in field margins pull minerals from subsoil layers those clover roots cannot reach. Number 20, deep-rooted perennial mineral accumulation in field margins. The Henry Doubleday Research Association published soil mineral cycling research in Brighton, England in 1996, documenting comfrey leaf biomass containing potassium levels exceeding synthetic potash fertilizer per unit weight. Amish farmers plant comfrey and chicory along field margins where roots penetrate 4 to 6 feet into subsoil, extracting calcium, potassium, and phosphorus that surface-feeding crops cannot access. The harvested leaf biomass gets cut and composted back into the growing beds. A purchased potassium program on a half-acre market garden runs an estimated $80 to $120 annually. Comfrey in the margin costs nothing after the initial planting and improves its yield every season as the root system deepens. Managed beekeeping adds a measurable yield return to every crop those minerals are feeding, and Vermont researchers put the number at 20%. Number 19, on-farm beekeeping for managed crop pollination. Geauga County, Ohio, spring 2009. University of Vermont agricultural researchers published findings that year documenting a measurable 20% yield increase in squash, cucumber, and bean crops within 300 meters of managed Amish beehives compared to equivalent crops on farms without hive management in the same season. Most farms treat pollination as something that either happens or does not. Amish farms position hives at field edges during peak bloom and manage the timing of forager exposure deliberately. A 20% yield increase on a $2,000 market garden crop is $400 recovered from a positioning decision that costs nothing once the hives are established and producing honey on top. Farm pond aquaculture adds a protein harvest from water infrastructure already built and maintained for livestock. Number 18, farm pond aquaculture for integrated protein production. A Sugar Creek, Ohio Amish operation profiled in Farm and Dairy magazine in 2004 produced an estimated 80 pounds of catfish annually from a half-acre livestock pond, representing roughly $240 in protein at retail pricing from a system that cost nothing additional to operate. Most livestock ponds sit between waterings, doing nothing but evaporating. Amish farms stock those same ponds with catfish, bass, or perch during the warm months, feeding them on kitchen scraps and farm waste grain, and harvest them before winter. The infrastructure was already there. The water was already there. The fish are the only addition, and they cost roughly $15 to stock. On-farm seed cleaning eliminates a commercial service cost most small operations pay without realizing there is an alternative. Number 17, on-farm seed cleaning using gravity separators and hand screens. An Amish grain operation in Elkhart County, Indiana, documented by the Indiana Small Farm Conference in 2006, cleaned 800 pounds of oat seed annually using a hand-built fanning mill, saving an estimated $160 in commercial cleaning fees on seed the farm was already saving. Most small operations that save seed send it to an elevator or cleaning service rather than processing it on the farm. A hand-built fanning mill uses a hand crank, a fan, and a series of screens to separate clean seed from chaff and weed seed by weight and size. The mill cost $45 in materials and an afternoon to build. $160 recovered annually from a tool that lasts indefinitely. Orchard renewal through Cleft grafting eliminates the replanting cost and the 7-year establishment wait at the same time. Number 16, Cleft grafting for orchard tree renewal without replanting. A Geauga County, Ohio, Amish orchardist documented in a 2007 Ohio State University Extension Bulletin renewed 14 aging apple trees through cleft grafting over 2 seasons, restoring full production at a material cost under $20 against a replanting cost estimated at $280 to $350 for equivalent new stock. Most orchardists replace unproductive trees. Amish orchardists graft productive scion wood onto the existing rootstock already in the ground, skipping the 5 to 7 year establishment period entirely. The tree keeps its mature root system. The scion brings its productive genetics. Full production in the second season after grafting from a tree that would otherwise have been cut and replaced for $300. Pigs clear new ground for future orchards and crop expansion at zero equipment cost and zero hauling labor. Number 15, pig-based woodland and brush clearing for new ground preparation. Gene Logsdon described watching a Mifflin County, Pennsylvania Amish operation clear 2 acres of brushy fence-lined ground in a single season in his 1995 book, The Contrary Farmer, using 4 pigs that rooted out small shrubs, consumed weed seeds and grubs, broke up surface compaction, and deposited manure across the clearing area before the ground was tilled and planted. The contractor estimate for mechanical clearing of the same 2 acres ran $800 to $1,200. The pigs were already on the farm. Their food was crop waste and kitchen scraps. The clearing cost nothing, the ground was fertilized in the process, and the pigs gained weight while they worked. Chicken tractors work the same logic on a smaller scale between crop cycles, and a Wayne County operation put a dollar figure on the annual saving. Number 14, chicken tractor field preparation between crop cycles, a Wayne County, Ohio. Amish market garden operation documented in the 2003 edition of Growing for Market maintained 12 portable chicken enclosures cycling through 30 garden beds annually, eliminating a separate cultivation pass and an estimated $180 in purchased poultry manure applications per season. Most growers cultivate fallow beds mechanically and purchase manure to amend them separately. The chicken tractors scratched the surface, consumed weed seeds and insect larvae, and deposited concentrated manure across each bed in one pass before the next planting. 2 jobs done simultaneously by animals producing eggs on the same schedule. $180 in annual savings from equipment already on the farm doing a task it was not purchased to do. Dibble board planting improves what goes into those prepared beds, and the Pennsylvania trial put the establishment advantage at 15%. Number 13, Dibble board planting for precise transplant establishment. An Organic Farming Research Foundation trial published in Santa Cruz, California in 2005 documented Dibble-planted lettuce transplants on Amish-managed plots in Pennsylvania, showing 15% higher 30-day survival rates than mechanically transplanted equivalents in the same beds. Most growers transplant by hand trowel or mechanical transplanter, producing variable spacing and inconsistent soil contact around the root ball. A dibble board is a wooden plank with evenly spaced dowels that creates an entire bed of planting holes in a single pressing motion, each hole the same depth and diameter, each transplant receiving identical soil contact. A 15% improvement in transplant survival on a 200 plant bed is 30 additional plants reaching harvest from the same seed investment. Roller crimped cover crops prepare the seed bed for the planting that follows without an herbicide pass or a tillage event. Number 12, roller crimping cover. Crops for herbicide-free no-till cash crop establishment. Rodale Institute No-Till Systems researchers published trial results in Kutztown, Pennsylvania in 2010, documenting roller-crimped cover crop mulch suppressing weed biomass by 80 to 95% in the first 60 days after termination on Amish-managed plots in the study. Most operations terminate cover crops with herbicide or tillage before planting the cash crop. A horse-drawn roller crimper folds the cover crop flat by crimping the stems, killing the plant without cutting and leaving a continuous mulch mat through which transplants or large-seeded crops are planted directly. No herbicide cost, no tillage pass. 80 to 95% weed suppression from a tool pulled by the same horses already working the field. Flame weeding handles the germinating weed flush in direct seeded beds where the mulch mat cannot be used at 12 cents per bed pass. Number 11, flame weeding for pre-emergence weed control in direct seeded beds. Pennsylvania State University Extension published a bulletin in 2002 documenting flame weeding in Amish carrot beds, reducing first cultivation labor requirements by 60% compared to unflamed beds in the same trial at a propane cost of approximately 12 cents per 100 square foot bed pass. 5 to 7 days after direct seeding, germinating weed seeds are in the white thread stage, maximally vulnerable to heat before the crop seed has even emerged. A propane flame weeder passed over the bed at that moment kills the entire weed flush without disturbing the soil or triggering a second germination from deeper seeds. A 60% reduction in cultivation labor on a bed that gets weeded 4 times per season is 2.4 cultivation passes eliminated per bed. Insectary borders eliminate a different category of recurring cost entirely, and the Cornell study documented a 52% reduction in pest pressure from plantings that cost nothing to maintain. Number 10, insectary border plantings for biological pest management. Cornell University researchers documented Amish insectary border plots in the Finger Lakes region of New York in 2006, finding parasitic wasp populations sustaining a 52% reduction in aphid pressure in adjacent brassica beds compared to farms without insectary plantings in the same season. Most operations purchase beneficial insect releases at $30 to $80 per application when pest pressure climbs. Amish farms establish permanent borders of buckwheat, phacelia, dill, and fennel along field edges, providing nectar and habitat that sustains resident populations of parasitic wasps, hoverflies, and ground beetles continuously across the season. No purchase, no application, 52% less pest pressure from plants that seed themselves forward every year. Scythe harvesting keeps small grain and hay production viable at the scale where purchased equipment makes no economic sense. Number 9, scythe harvesting of small grain and hay fields. The Land Stewardship Project published a small farm grain production study in White Bear Lake, Minnesota in 2003 documenting Amish scythe operators harvesting 1 acre of oats per day with a 3-person crew, producing clean grain at an equipment cost of $180 for 3 scythes against a custom combining cost of $65 to $85 per acre for the same yield. Most small operations either rent a combine or hire custom work because owning the equipment makes no economic sense at small scale. 3 scythes, 3 people, 1 acre per day, and no fuel, no custom operator scheduling, no minimum acreage requirement. At $75 per acre, custom combining avoided across a 5-acre grain plot. The scythes pay for themselves in a single season. Gravity flow grain storage preserves what those scythes harvest without the powered aeration that conventional on-farm bins require. Number 8, gravity flow grain storage with natural ventilation. A Daviess County, Indiana Amish grain operation documented by the USDA Grain Inspection Service in 2002 stored 3,000 bushels of wheat in naturally ventilated wooden bins through an 8-month storage period with 0 grain quality loss at 0 operating cost against an estimated $240 in fan electricity for equivalent powered aeration. Most on-farm grain storage depends on electric fans to move air through the grain mass and prevent heating. Amish wooden bins are built with natural convection channels that move air through the grain using temperature differential alone, requiring no electricity and no mechanical components that can fail during a summer heat spike. 3,000 bushels stored for 8 months at 0 operating cost from architecture that requires no power connection. In-field residue composting returns the straw and chaff from that harvest directly to field fertility without a single hauling trip. Number 7, in-field residue composting through livestock trampling. An Amish diversified operation in Arthur, Illinois, documented in Acres USA magazine in 2001, processed an estimated 8 tons of crop residue annually through in-field livestock trampling, eliminating 2 full days of tractor hauling labor per season and adding an estimated $400 in manure fertility value to the field simultaneously. Most operations haul crop residues to a central compost site, process them, and haul finished material back. Amish farmers spread residue across fallow ground and run cattle or hogs across it for 2 to 3 weeks. The animals trample the material into the soil surface, deposit manure on top, and the combination decomposes in place. 2 days of tractor labor eliminated, $400 of fertility added. The permanent raised bed system concentrates that returned fertility in defined zones that compound in value every season. Number 6, permanent raised bed systems for long-term fertility concentration. A Rodale Institute long-term soil health study published in Kutztown, Pennsylvania in 2012 documented permanent Amish raised bed systems in southeastern Pennsylvania, showing organic matter levels 34% higher than adjacent annually tilled ground after 10 years of continuous management. Most market gardens till the entire field each season, redistributing the biological activity and organic matter that accumulated in the previous season's root zone across the full soil profile. Permanent beds with fixed walking paths concentrate all amendment and biological life in defined growing zones that never get compacted or redistributed. After 10 years, the difference between a permanent bed and an annually tilled bed next to it is measurable in the handful. A 34% organic matter advantage compounds further every season the bed stays in place. Problem-targeted cover cropping accelerates specific soil repairs that organic matter alone cannot address on a fixed timeline. Number 5, problem-targeted cover crop selection for soil condition remediation. A sustainable agriculture research and education program trial published in Washington, D.C. in 2009 documented Amish-managed targeted cover cropping in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, achieving 65% greater nematode suppression using sorghum Sudan grass compared to rye cover on the same infested ground. Most operations broadcast a generic cover mix across every field regardless of what specific problem each field needs addressed. Amish farmers plant tillage radish for compaction, sorghum Sudan grass for nematode pressure, and sun hemp where nitrogen deficit is the primary constraint, treating each cover crop decision as a field-specific prescription rather than a blanket application. 65% greater nematode suppression from the correct species selection on infested ground versus the generic alternative. Traditional variety selection reduces the production risk that drives most small farms toward purchased crop insurance. Number 4, traditional variety selection for local climate and soil adaptation. A Northern Plains Sustainable Agriculture Society variety trial, published in Carrington, North Dakota in 2004, documented Amish-selected open-pollinated corn varieties outperforming commercial hybrids by 8% in yield under drought-stressed conditions on farms where those varieties had been selected for drought performance over 20 or more generations. Commercial hybrids are bred for average performance across standardized conditions. An Amish variety selected on a specific farm through 20 generations of drought years carries adaptation data no commercial breeder can replicate for that location. 8% yield advantage under the exact stress conditions that destroy neighbors' crops is not a marginal difference in a drought year. Field observation journals make that adaptation possible by recording what actually happened across every season for decades. Number 3, seasonal field observation journals for crop performance tracking. Penn State Extension published a farm management case study in 2006 documenting an Amish operation in Kishacoquillas Valley, Pennsylvania that had maintained continuous field journals since 1934, with 72 years of pest emergence timing data allowing targeted interventions 4 to 6 days before first economic threshold damage rather than after. Most growers respond to pest pressure when they see it. An Amish farmer with 72 years of first appearance records for every major pest on his specific ground knows the emergence date before the pest arrives. 4 to 6 days of lead time on a pest intervention is the difference between a preventive measure and an emergency response, and emergency responses cost more. 7 decades of observation on one piece of ground is more accurate than any extension bulletin written for average regional conditions. Church district networks multiply the value of every journal by distributing its findings across every farm in the community. Number 2, community crop trial sharing through church district networks. A Journal of Sustainable Agriculture survey published in 2004 documented informal variety trial networks operating continuously across 14 Lancaster County, Pennsylvania church districts, with an estimated 200 farms contributing and accessing performance data on over 80 crop varieties annually at zero cost beyond the conversation. Most farmers buy seed catalog performance data written by the company selling the seed. Amish church districts run distributed multi-farm trials across 200 farms on diverse soils, with every farmer's journal feeding the collective knowledge base and every planting decision benefiting from what 199 other operations learned in the same season. 200 farms, 80 varieties, decades of continuous data, zero research budget. The single farming decision that makes every other item on this list possible is not a practice at all. Number 1, the farm as a closed production system. David Klein farmed 120 acres in Fredericksburg, Ohio, and described the operating principle in his 1990 book, Great Possessions, as a farm that produces what it needs before it sells what it grows. Every item on this countdown follows from that one prior decision. The draft horses produce their own power. The insectary boarders produce their own pest management. The field journals produce their own agronomic knowledge. The church district network distributes that knowledge for free. The $3,200 annual input bill the average American farming family considers fixed is the cost of running a farm that has not yet decided to produce its inputs from within itself. The agricultural supply industry named at the start of this video does not fear a farmer who broad forks a root bed or roller crimps a cover crop. What it cannot reach is a farm that has decided to produce its inputs before purchasing anything from outside. Every section in this countdown is a node in that single decision. Draft power from the horses, fertility from the margins, pest management from the borders, knowledge from the journals. You do not need all 25 to start. Find the input on your current farm budget that costs the most and can be produced on the farm itself. Replace that purchase first. The farm will show you what to close next.